Hey guys, it's Carrie at River City Pilates, and today I am talking about taking virtual classes if you have stuff going on in your low back. If you have tightness, occasional pain, that kind of thing. I know that the thought of maybe exercising on your own and taking a class virtually where an instructor can't immediately give you feedback and cues can seem a little frightening. Like we get unsure of ourselves. We're not sure if we know what we're doing or if we can do things correctly and not end up doing more harm than good. If this is you, I just want to encourage you, one, to keep moving. What we have been finding with our clients is that more than anything, movement is helping them feel better. That's helping them de-stress and just feel better in their body and stay healthy. And that's super important. The other kind of magical thing that's happening is because they have to pay attention more to their body, they don't have that teacher there. Clients are really feeling kind of empowered that when they're taking classes, like they know, like, oh, when it gets to that exercise, I just keep my range a little smaller, or I grab this prop because I know that's how I like to do it in my body. Or clients are like, well, you know, on any given day, sometimes that exercise doesn't work for me, so I skip it. That's okay, and that's what we want. And again, that's super empowering for you. It's gonna make your movement practice better. It's gonna keep you moving in life, so that's an awesome thing. I wanna give you some tips today. If you have some low back things going on, I wanna give you some tips so that you can take classes at home and be willing to kind of adjust and modify and do things as you need. So number one, if you have stuff going on in your low back, the probably most important thing I always come back to as a teacher is are you using those core muscles to stabilize your back throughout exercises or to move through your back? So I'm going to lay back as I teach this a little bit, but if you're laying on a mat, when I'm talking about that core engagement, when I'm talking about that being able to stabilize your back, it is the thing where you're pulling your stomach muscles in. If you want to think about your belly button pulling down toward the mat, and if I'm laying here, I'm almost thinking I'm gluing, pulling so much that my low back starts to pull toward that mat a little extra. Feels like I'm shrinking my waist in using my muscles. That thing, right? That engagement of pulling up and in is going to keep you safe in your back. So I don't care what exercise you're doing, if you're standing doing a squat or a lunge, if you're laying on the mat, if you're kneeling, wherever you are, always remind yourself to come back to that. And if you start to feel like, ooh, I feel like I'm doing a little strain or doesn't feel good in my low back, ask yourself, am I doing the thing where I pull my stomach up and in and keep my stomach muscles tight? All right, that is your number one thing. All right, next up, I want to talk a little bit about what I'm going to call legs in space exercises. So if you're doing Pilates and yoga and things like that, we do a lot of exercises where we have our legs up in space. Maybe it's one leg, maybe it's two legs, maybe we're doing fun things, maybe we're circling them around, whatever it is. And I want to specifically address those exercises. So when we're doing exercises where our legs are up in space, the key to keeping yourself safe in your low back and not feeling like you're straining is the thing I just talked about. You need to make sure that your stomach is pulling in and that you're not, like when your leg is up in space and if it's doing a movement, that you can effectively pull those stomach muscles up and in and only do a range of motion where you can maintain that and not go too big. When our low back, when we have stuff going on, oftentimes our low back is tight. Hand in hand with that, oftentimes is that the backs of our legs are tight. And those things can make holding your leg up in space more of a challenge. So I want to give you some ideas on how you could make it more doable in your body. So my number one tip would be to prop your hips up with something. And I have all kinds of things beside me today because I just wanted to give you some ideas. If you have a yoga brick thing works good just to lift under your hips. And if you're watching this at home, like try this out. Like even if it's just like lifting your leg up in space, notice how it feels when you do it or both legs up in space with something under your hips, and then and try it and notice like it feels a little more challenging when you're here. So anything you can do to prop up. You have a foam roller at home, it works great. You can lift and prop and be up. Honestly, anything works. Some pads, I have like some gardening pads here. They actually are super functional for your at-home workout. So if you have some of those at home, they're gonna work great. Don't have any of those, you got a blanket, you got something, we all have some blanket or something at home, right? Your sweatshirt rolled up, fold it up, put it underneath your hips for those exercises, and you will feel like it's easier to maintain that stability in your back without straining. So anything you have to prop up your hips. All right, next tip. When your legs are up in space, this is still my legs up in space tips, support your legs, right? So if you're doing an exercise, and I'm gonna use our one leg circle exercise in Pilates, where your leg is up in space, and maybe the exercise is to circle and reach toward a straight leg, take a TheraBand if you have it, put it around your foot, and use it. If you don't have a TheraBand, a belt works really great. You can also do it with, I just have like a yoga strap, but a long belt or something works good, or a long towel to support your leg. That is going to give you something to connect into. It's going to help your leg hold up in space so that you can maintain your stability in your back, super important. So find something to support your legs, and especially if maybe you're doing something with both legs in space, you know, even that as simple as like a little lower down and come back, that support system is gonna really, really help you. So make sure you have something that you can use to support your legs. Another thing I want to talk about is range of motion. So super important. We talk a lot at the studio about working level. And that just means that when you're doing exercises, you're going to be super picky with yourself, right? If you're circling your leg around, you're only going as big as you can go and not feel strain in your back. Even if the teacher's doing an exercise on the video that's a little bigger, it's okay. You take a little smaller range as you come back around. Also, I want to talk about if your leg is in space and the exercise is supposed to eventually get to that straight leg, shorten your lever a little bit, bend your leg, right? So when you bend your leg, that's going to take a little strain off tight hamstrings and backs of the legs. So that can be a nice little tip, right? So that same little circle exercise with the bent leg is easier to stabilize our back versus a straight leg on there. All right, and then my last tip, no matter what you're doing, is to slow it down a little bit, right? No quick movements. No, when we go too quick, we start to get a little sloppy and we don't pay attention to those details. So allow yourself to take some time, you know, even if it's just this, like a little curl back. Slowly pull your stomach muscles up and in and come back. Whatever exercise you're doing, take some time to slow down and make sure you feel comfortable doing it. All right, so those are my tips today. If you got some stuff going on in your low back, it's okay. Movement is probably one of the best things you can do. Keep taking the virtual classes. The things that you're going to do to make sure you stay safe are, number one, probably the most important, know how to engage those core muscles, know how to pull in. I don't care what you're doing, check in. Am I pulling my stomach muscles in? Am I doing that thing? Do that. If you are doing anything where your legs are up in space, if you're laying on your back and your legs are up in space, have some things ready that you can use to make that better in your body. So props to go underneath your hips, use a band to support your leg, or a belt or a strap, that kind of thing. And then that last one, be okay with like maybe do it a little bit slower. Maybe you get a few less reps in than what the teacher is doing. Take your time on things so that you feel confident that you're doing it well. All right, thanks for joining me today for some tips for low backs when you're taking virtual classes. Have a great day.